Hello, and welcome to the Philanthropy Workshop. This workshop is comprised of 6 sections designed to provide you with the tools and resources you need for a successful philanthropic journey. We highly encourage you to include family members in this process. This workshop was created using a philanthropy toolkit created by the PAC Center at Stanford University. The activities and resources located in your activities and planner notebook were curated and created by the Effective Philanthropy Learning Initiative within the Stanford Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society. This workshop is designed for donors interested in stepping into or continuing their roles as effective philanthropists. Effective philanthropists go beyond writing checks to nonprofit organizations. They are ready to engage and sustain significant support for effective organizations aligned with their philanthropic missions. This type of giving is personally meaningful as well as socially impactful. Creating social impact and maximizing the value of your philanthropic dollars takes careful planning and reflection. This workshop guides you through each stage of your philanthropic planning, providing you with resources and activities to ensure that your philanthropy can positively contribute to improving the world around you, while also adding more meaning to your life. Throughout this section, you will answer the following questions. How do you find your focus areas? Where can you learn more, seek professional advice, and engage with donors? How do you involve your family? How do you structure your giving? How do you find and vet organizations? How do you make gifts and track your giving? We encourage you to make this workshop and toolkit work for your needs and financial situation. You can work through it in order or jump to the specific sections that apply to the current stage of your philanthropy. Spend as much time as you need to achieve the objectives in each section. You do not need to come up with all the answers in a single setting, or even in a single year. Discussing the activities with your planner and advisor can help integrate your philanthropic planning into your broader wealth management strategy. Our goal is to help you transform your philanthropic vision into action without getting stuck in the planning stage of the process. Many successful philanthropists find it helpful to organize their philanthropy into cycles. They create a 3-year or 5-year giving plan, use that time to test their plan and learn in the field. Then they revisit and adapt the plan before continuing the process. We encourage you to create a general timeline for yourself before beginning the toolkit. We believe that there is no single correct way to be a philanthropist. What matters is that you make informed, thoughtful decisions and continue learning along the way. There are 2 kinds of interactive pages in this toolkit for you to write on if you wish. The first are the worksheets. These are activity pages for brainstorming and reflection. They are located throughout each section on blue paper. The next are the philanthropy planner sheets. These are activity pages for you to summarize all you've learned in each section and to use as a reference for yourself or to share with your advisors, family members, or others. You can pull out these pages and store them in the pocket at the back of the toolkit for easy reference. They are located at the end of each section on yellow paper. I will be sure to tell you when to pause this workshop so you can have time to complete the activities before moving on to the next topic. This completes the introduction to the Philanthropy Workshop. Welcome to Section 1 of the Philanthropy Workshop. During this section, we will work on finding your focus areas. You will also complete activities A and B. In this section, you'll clarify your motivations and values, which will guide your decision-making throughout the giving process. You'll narrow your focus areas to identify the issues most meaningful to you and give your philanthropy direction. You'll also consider your time, talent, and social ties to understand how you can contribute to your focus areas with your skills and network. Please pause this workshop and take time to complete activities A and B found at the front of your toolkit. Use the value cards located at the front of the toolkit for activity B. I also recommend tearing out your activity B and putting it in front of you as you complete the rest of the toolkit. The simplest way to organize your philanthropy is to focus on several specific issues rather than giving across many issues. While your philanthropic budget certainly can allow room for reactive and emergency giving, narrowing your focus areas for proactive giving helps prioritize your resources. This is true even if your philanthropy is concerned with a particular community, for you cannot give to every possible cause. It is also true for donors who are motivated by the philosophy of effective altruism, which is concerned with alleviating the conditions of abject poverty and avoiding global catastrophes. The next two activities help you narrow your focus areas. Both activities help you reflect on issue areas and select a few to integrate into your initial giving plan. Activity C is for donors who have a significant history of giving. This activity will help you take stock of your past giving and determine trends and themes. From there, you can understand which issues you are most passionate about, assess how you have supported them in the past, and decide whether you would like to make adjustments. If you wish to start with a clean slate, Activity D will help you explore a range of potential issues and select those that align with your values and motivations. We've also included a deck of issue cards you can find at the front of the toolkit. Potential focus areas are included on the back of each issue card. Effective philanthropists often narrow their focus even further by identifying a target population and location for each issue. For example, a philanthropist who selected education as an issue might narrow her focus area to adolescent girls' math education on the south side of Chicago. Activity E guides you through narrowing your focus to target populations and locations. Please pause this video to complete activities C and D. A focus statement frames your values and motivations and connects them with your philanthropic intentions. A strong focus statement can help guide your philanthropic plan. While you may want to have an overall giving statement the same way some nonprofits have vision and mission statements, we recommend also creating a separate focus statement for each issue, including the specific population and location you would like to serve. Please pause this workshop to complete Activity E. When considering levels of donor engagement, you may have heard of the 4 T's. 4 T's of donor engagement are treasure, time, talent, and ties. Treasure is for financial contributions. Time reflects the hours you are able to give. Talent refers to your specific skill sets, and ties related to your social and professional networks. It is up to you to consider how to balance and deploy these 4 T's in your philanthropic endeavors at different periods in your life. There may be intervals when you don't have much time but are happy to make significant financial donations. There may be other times when you cannot give the lead gift on a campaign but are able to consistently volunteer and make introductions to key people in your social network. We will focus on financial contributions in Section 4. In this section, we focus on the other 3 T's: time, talent, and ties. You might consider deepening your philanthropy by contributing your time and talent through volunteering. Volunteering can be an excellent way to learn more about your focus areas and to get to know an organization. You can volunteer with organizations you support financially as well as other organizations. Nonprofit organizations sometimes post information about volunteer positions on their websites. Volunteer committees can be short-term and focus around a specific event or short-term business goal, or they can be long-term and connected to a series of events, an ongoing program, or extended strategic initiatives. Another way to contribute at a leadership level is to serve on the board of a nonprofit organization. Often in organizations, senior leadership identifies prospective board candidates based on the skills and expertise that they can contribute and extends an invitation to join the board. Organizations often ask board members to be ambassadors for the organization, willing to tap into their social and professional networks to help the organization more effectively meet its various goals. While board service can be extremely meaningful, it can also be a significant time commitment depending on the organization's needs and the skills and resources other board members bring to the table. If considering volunteering or serving on a board, please pause this workshop and work through Activity F. Now that you have completed Section 1, turn to the Finding Your Focus Areas summary on the next page. Fill in the table to outline your selected focus areas. As you complete the yellow pages at the end of each section, you can tear them out and stick them in the back of your toolkit in the section labeled Philanthropy Planner. This concludes Section 1 of the Philanthropy Workshop. Welcome to Section 2 of the Philanthropy Workshop. In this section, we'll talk about how you can learn more, seek professional advice, and engage in other donors. At the beginning of your philanthropic journey, or even when it's well underway, you may find it helpful to seek professional advice and learn alongside other donors. Yet, donors often find it challenging to identify reliable sources of assistance and collaboration. This section will help you navigate the landscape of organizations that might support you in achieving your philanthropic goals. To start, it's important to understand the network of the donor, and that's what this chart does. So at the bottom you have advisors, and thus like advisors here at Norwal, we are here to serve donors. On the left you see ecosystem funders. These are organizations that have a formal grant-making program. On the right, you see ecosystem supporters. These are organizations that provide capacity building support to the high net worth donor. There's also education providers. These are organizations that provide educational programs for high net worth donors. There's also funding intermediaries. These are organizations that direct contributions from high net worth donors to nonprofit organizations. So examples of this include community foundations, public foundations, funder collaboratives, donor-advised fund management organizations, and other similar models. There's also peer networks. These are organizations that manage networks of high net worth donors. Finally, you have research and data providers. These are organizations that conduct research and provide data to support high net worth donors in their philanthropic efforts. So in Section 2, we're going to go over how to learn more about effective philanthropy. So this can be supplemental to your toolkit. We'll also go over how to seek advice from professionals to better inform your philanthropy. We'll talk about how you can learn with other donors to exchange perspectives and experience with peers. Talk about how to collaborate with other donors to deepen the impact of your philanthropy. And finally, how to learn from the communities you're trying to serve through participatory grant making. There is a wide range of reading material beyond this toolkit available for donors to learn more about effective philanthropy and the social sector. It can supplement your navigation of the toolkit and allow you to engage more deeply with your philanthropy. This is a list of Stanford PAC's affiliated reading materials for donors. The first one is Stanford Social Innovation Review, or the SSIR. This has print and online articles, webinars, conferences, and podcasts. SSIR bridges research, theory, and practice on a wide range of topics, including philanthropy, practices, human rights, impact investing, and nonprofit business models. Next is Money Well Spent, a strategic plan for smart philanthropy. This book explains how to create and implement a strategy that ensures meaningful results. Next is Giving 2.0. This book offers practical tools and ideas to guide your giving journey and is accompanied by a discussion guide for educators and Giving Circle members to further engage with the material. Lastly is Just Giving, Why Philanthropy is Failing Democracy and How It Can Do Better. This book investigates the ethical and political dimensions of philanthropy and considers how giving might better support democratic values and promote justice. So there are two categories of philanthropy professionals and issue area experts that donors can learn from: advisors and funding intermediaries. So advisors can help you walk through conversations around articulating your values. They can help you identify your desired philanthropic focus areas. They can help engage your family in your philanthropy process. And they can help you evaluate nonprofit organizations to support and develop a long-term philanthropic plan. A common example of funding intermediaries are community foundations. They usually operate in specific geographic areas and provide support to donors and nonprofit organizations in their locales. They can be good places to learn with other donors and connect with professional advisors. And a good example of this is the Cobb Community Foundation. There are also two engagement categories for high capacity donors to explore opportunities and learn in settings with other donors. This can be done through education providers and peer networks. Education providers and affinity groups offer educational support for high capacity donors, such as events, workshops, conferences, research, online courses, and programs. Examples of this include the National Center for Family Philanthropy, Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, and the Aspen Institute's program on philanthropy and social enterprise. Affinity groups are a type of education provider involving coalitions of philanthropists or philanthropic institutions that provide educational and networking opportunities to donors with a shared interest in a particular funding area. Examples of this include Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders in Philanthropy, the Jewish Funders Network, or the Women Donors Network. These groups host a range of activities including in-person meetings, expert panels, and interactive workshops. Webinars and email lists or forums can provide updates on current issues or a platform to share ideas and experiences on a regular basis. Peer networks are organizations that manage networks of high-capacity donors. The shared knowledge from these networks can make your giving more effective. Giving circles are a type of peer network that can be especially useful for deepening your knowledge about focus areas, contributing to pooled funds dedicated to specific issues or geographic areas, and making collective decisions on distributing the funds. Giving circles help participants collectively learn about philanthropy, and some also organize volunteer opportunities. High-capacity donors, especially those who already have significant philanthropic experience, are increasingly seeking to collaborate with others. Your contributions are likely already working alongside other funders to support an organization's work. However, you may choose to intentionally participate in collaboration and pooled funding initiatives to increase the impact of your giving. Collaboration allows donors to combine funding, knowledge, and expertise, and can be an effective way to leverage and scale your giving. Your involvement and control will vary greatly depending on an initiative's structure. For instance, you can donate to funds that are curated by funding intermediaries, and you might be able to exert influence but have less control over giving. Or you can engage in giving collectives that are donor-led, where each donor has a decision-making seat at the table. The spectrum on this slide outlines different ways donors can approach collaboration. If you feel you are not yet ready to collaborate, you can always revisit the possibility of collaboration in future philanthropic cycles. Note how each method of collaboration has different implications for your decision-making autonomy. So, looking at the scale starting on the left for the more autonomous options. The first one is exchanging of knowledge among donors. This is the most common form of collaboration and provides the most autonomy. Examples of this include joining in an affinity group and sharing lessons learned with other donors. Going down the scale, you can also entrust your funds to another well-established funder, usually a private or community foundation that has full control over its grant making and is fully staffed. For the less autonomous options, donors may choose to coordinate funding strategies within their focus areas. They can identify opportunities to support one another's work, reduce areas of unnecessary overlap, and strategize together about how to address a specific problem. Lastly, You have donors can aggregate or pool funds with each other to create larger scale impact in a shared focus area. Entities that have a thematic focus are known as issue funds. Participatory grantmaking aims to democratize philanthropy by shifting the decision-making power from donors to the communities being served. It empowers community members by recognizing the unique importance of their lived experiences and making good decisions about how the community should be served. The grant-making process itself is a key outcome of participatory grant-making. The goal is to achieve an inclusive democratic process and, as such, is driven by values rather than by strict rules. Thus, there is a lot of variation in how participatory grant-making is practiced. Sometimes the process is completely led by peers and does not include any trustees or foundation staff. Sometimes the grant-making decision is led by peers, but the donors and staff are involved in other aspects. Other times, peers and donors both participate in making grant decisions. So there are some examples of ways to practice listed on the screen. And one is a listening tour, which is where donors can ask a wide range of nonprofit staff or community members about their experiences around a particular issue. Another is taking a seat at the table. So an example of this is a giving circle focused on girls' education in Southern California that has an advisory board of teenage girls from the region. Another example is through active partnership. An example of this is a foundation creating a regional advisor board of community experts to make decisions about which nonprofits to fund. It has many benefits. Participatory grant-making may not always be the best approach for funders. Funders are still physically and legally responsible for their funding decisions, and as a result, some traditional funders believe they shouldn't cede control of decision-making. Additionally, for some organizations operating at a national level, engaging in participatory work may be overly challenging if they serve multiple constituencies and have fixed existing organizational policies and structures. Also, participatory grant-making can be resource intensive. Now that you've completed section 2, turn to the Engaging Others summary on the next page. Complete the survey to help you consider the different ways you can collaborate with other donors, nonprofit leaders, subject matter experts, and community members in the future. Next, tear out the summary to include in your philanthropy planner at the end of this toolkit. This concludes section 2 of the Philanthropy Workshop. Welcome to section 3 of the Philanthropy Workshop. In this section, we'll discuss how to involve your family in the process. For many donors, philanthropy presents a unique opportunity to include family, however you may define it, and create a family legacy. You may include family members in helping develop philanthropic goals, providing feedback, or carrying out your philanthropic mission. This section guides you through the following steps. The first is to involve your family in your philanthropy. So you can create and embrace shared family values and create a meaningful legacy. Next is to show you how to navigate family dynamics through a series of reflection activities. And lastly, how to involve the next generation. And this can be with children and grandchildren to encourage and support their philanthropy. Involving your family can take multiple forms, from involving them in decision-making to preparing for eventual succession. Before engaging your family, it can be helpful to outline the forms of involvement you wish to consider. It is useful to be clear about your expectations for various family members' roles and to seek their buy-in. The next activity you will complete will allow you to reflect on your family and how they can be a part of the philanthropy process. We recommend you give each topic some consideration before reaching out to your family members. Please take time to complete Activity G. Here's a list of some roles that family members can play in your philanthropy. One person can play multiple roles. As you go through this list, think about which roles meet your current needs and the family members who might be able to fill those roles. If you feel some uncertainty engaging family members, consider having a conversation to ask their thoughts about giving back or invite them to volunteer together. So the first can be what is called a co-philanthropist. You want this person to be your partner in philanthropy, to help you set your priorities, to be a sounding board, and to be involved throughout the process. The next is the implementer. You want this person to help you research how and where to give and help you implement your philanthropic goals. Next is a thought partner or an advisor. So you want this person to give you feedback on your philanthropic goals and plans for achieving them. Next is your successor. You want this person to continue bestowing your philanthropic assets after you pass away. And then you can also create your own reasons for wanting to include this person, which falls under the other category. You will allocate these roles to your family members at the end of this section in the Engaging Family Summary worksheet. The next activity uses reflection questions to work through family dynamics and set your family up for a successful philanthropic journey. Please pause this and complete Activity H. Involving the next generation is often of great importance to donors. Philanthropy is an opportunity to bring family together around a common goal, communicate values across generations, and develop a sense of social responsibility in the next generation. Having discussions about giving back helps ground the next generation's understanding of social responsibility to carry out family activities such as day of service, site visits, and ongoing volunteering. In the next activity, you will take some time to introduce the next generation to philanthropy, that is, if you have children. Please pause this and complete the activity with your children, grandchildren, or other younger family members. Now that you've completed Section 3, turn to the Involving Family Summary on the next page. Identify the family members you would like to engage in your philanthropy and outline each family member's contribution in an engagement plan. Welcome to Section 4 of the Philanthropy Workshop. Now that you've defined your philanthropic motivations, values, and focus areas, as well as developed a plan for engaging others in your giving, it is now time to develop a concrete structure for your giving. This section guides you through the following steps. How to determine your philanthropy budget in order to integrate your philanthropy with your broader financial planning. And also selecting giving vehicles best suited to both your personal and philanthropic objectives. It's a personal decision to determine how much to give to your focus areas compared to reserving resources for you and your family's present and future needs. This toolkit intends to focus on proactive giving in the focus areas you identified in Section 1. The activities will help you categorize and distribute your contributions into 3 main buckets. So 1 being proactive giving, which includes contributions to organizations working on your selected issues. 2, reactive giving, which includes contributions to personal requests from family and friends to support their selected issue areas. And lastly, emergency giving, which includes contributions to disaster and emergency relief funds or dire situations that emerge from unexpected policy changes. Additionally, there are 2 approaches you can take to arrive at your total philanthropy budget. You can either use your previous contributions to inform your future giving related to the values and issues you identified in Section 1, or you may prefer to start with a clean slate to determine how much to give. You will determine your philanthropy budget using the next 3 activities. Activity J is for those who have made previous contributions to their selected issues. Recount your previous contributions to understand your giving distribution across your selected issues and the total amount allocated. Consider adjustments to make your giving more proactive. Regardless of the approach you choose, you may want to discuss your overall financial plan with your advisor or planner before determining your final philanthropy budget and giving cycles. Skip ahead to activities K and L if you prefer to start from a clean slate with your future giving plans. For activity L, you can find your budget coins located in the front part of the binder. Go ahead and pause this to complete the activities. A philanthropic giving vehicle provides a structure for you to carry out your giving. This section will help you identify which giving vehicles are best suited to your personal, financial, and philanthropic preferences. Keep in mind that you can achieve your philanthropic objectives through any vehicle. The goal here is to ensure that you select the vehicle or a combination of vehicles that best aligns with your broader needs. The first, listed here as being one of the most common giving vehicles, is through your checkbook or other direct contributions. Such contributions qualify for a same-year tax deduction. You can also qualify for tax deductions when you donate long-term appreciated non-cash assets, such as stocks, and you're doing this directly to the charitable organizations or foundations. Next are through donor advised funds, also known as DAFs. DAFs are managed by nonprofit entities, community foundations, and the charitable arms of for-profit financial service providers. Each managing entity has different minimum contributions, gifts, investment programs, and fees. DAFs within community foundations offer a local focus with knowledgeable staff and donor education opportunities to enable place-based giving. Next is through private foundations. Private foundations are tax-exempt nonprofit organizations that must pay out at least 5% of their assets each year in the form of grants and operating charitable activities. You will receive a tax deduction when you transfer assets to a private foundation. A foundation must have a board of directors, typically of 3 or more persons. Depending on the size and activity of the foundation, paid staff may be necessary for management and admin work. Some donors want their foundation to exist in perpetuity, while others may wish to spend down all the foundation's assets within their lifetime or over some set period of time. Operating foundations, a subset of private foundations, primarily conduct their own charitable programs. Some also make grants. Operating foundations have a legal classification under the IRS and are required to spend 85% of their assets each year on charitable activities. The last is through limited liability companies, or LLCs. These are business structures that limit donors' personal liability against lawsuits. LLCs are pass-through entities that can also function as philanthropic vehicles. As with business LLCs, income and charitable tax attributes flow through to its members. Contributions to the LLC itself are not deductible for charitable income tax purposes. It is only when the LLC makes a charitable contribution that its members are eligible for a tax deduction. LLCs do not have annual distribution or public disclosure requirements. These vehicles allow donors to benefit both non-charitable beneficiaries, such as the donor or the donor's children, as well as charitable organizations. These trusts can be created during the donor's lifetime or in a will. So the first being the charitable remainder trusts. These are irrevocable trusts from which there are payouts for life or a period of up to 20 years to a non-charitable beneficiary, after which one or more charities receive what is left, also known as the remainder. For example, the trust may provide that the donor or the donor and spouse or any other person named gets the income for life or for several years, and that everything left goes to a specified charity. Only the remainder is treated as a charitable gift. This amount is tax deductible when you create the trust. Next are charitable lead trusts. So these are reverse of the charitable remainder trusts. That is, the charities get paid out first. A charitable lead trust is an irrevocable trust that makes at least annual payments to designated charities for a set period of time. After that period, the trust ends and the balance passes to designated non-charitable beneficiaries, such as family members or others. Last are through bequests. Bequests are gifts from your assets. whether they be a transfer of cash, securities, or other property. This can be made through your estate plan or your will. You can make a bequest to designated charitable organizations by including language in your will or your living trust. You can also designate an organization as a beneficiary of your retirement account or life insurance policy. Please pause the video to complete Activity M, where you will take time reflecting on your giving vehicle options. You will also find a giving vehicle comparison chart following Activity M. Review this chart to determine how your preferences align with the different giving vehicles available. We do encourage you to discuss these options with your advisor or planner. Now that you've completed Section 4, turn to the Structuring Your Giving summary on the next page. Rank the giving vehicles best suited to your preferences and identify next steps for setting them up. Welcome to Section 5 of the Philanthropy Workshop. You are now ready to search for effective organizations aligned with your philanthropic goals. Even if you do not find a perfectly matching organization, your research will help you understand the landscape and learn which organizations address your broader issues, as well as their method for doing so. You may already have organizations in mind, but we nonetheless encourage you to take time to learn about other organizations working in your focus areas to ensure your giving is as effective as possible. This section guides you through the following steps. The first is to find organizations in your focus areas. Next is to understand how organizations can achieve their intended outcomes. Lastly, you'll learn how to vet organizations to identify those working effectively. Proactively identifying organizations to fund, rather than reactively responding to miscellaneous funding requests, makes it more likely that you will support organizations aligned with your philanthropic goals. The search process also helps you learn more about the landscape of your focus areas, making your philanthropy more effective. You will take two main steps to find organizations. You will seek recommendations from your networks, and research online. If you have family, friends, or professional acquaintances with significant experience in your focus areas, consider asking them to recommend organizations that they know of or volunteer with. Make sure you understand the depth of their experience with their recommended organizations, why they recommend them, and what biases may affect their recommendations. You can also seek recommendations from issue area experts. For example, you may ask a friend who is a human rights lawyer about organizations supporting immigrant rights, or an oncologist about current cancer research. Experienced donors in your focus areas are another good source of recommendations. If you are looking for place-based funding recommendations, community foundations often understand the local landscape of nonprofit organizations. The Council on Foundations has a publicly available tool you can use to search for community foundations by location. Another way is to research online. A focused online search is the most comprehensive way to find nonprofit organizations. The more specific you are about your focus areas, the more likely your search query is to be useful. Create targeted search queries by including your issue or focus area, the populations or groups you want to help, and if it's relevant, your geographic interests. Note that you may want to change the word order of your search queries depending on your personal preferences. So for example, if you are more interested in a particular population than a specific location, place the population before the location. So some examples that provide focused results are nonprofit organization education low-income students in Boston, or nonprofit mental health services in Wisconsin for youth. Or lastly, charities global health women organizations. Make sure you look on the website of each organization that is a candidate for your giving for pages with titles like About Us or About the Organization and Programs and Services, and read them carefully to see how the organization aligns with your focus area. If you're interested in volunteering with the organization or before making a gift, look for titles like Get Involved to look up ongoing volunteer activities, or see if the organization has any public events or benefits you might attend. There are also curated online lists of organizations. Foundations have specialized professional staff who thoroughly vet nonprofit organizations, especially before funding them. Many large foundations share a list of their grantees online. Search for foundations aligned with your philanthropic goals and then look at their grantees. Issue funds can help you learn about organizations that work on a particular issue or focus area. Overseen by a fund manager with expertise in a subject, issue funds aggregate donor contributions and distribute them to relevant nonprofit organizations. For more information on issue funds and how to find them, see additional resources, section 5 at the end of this toolkit. At the time of a natural disaster or humanitarian crisis, community foundations and charitable arms of financial institutions often provide curated lists of nonprofit organizations addressing humanitarian, emergency, and disaster relief. These lists guide donors to relief and rebuilding efforts. Each organization has its own methodology for assessing a nonprofit's effectiveness. In addition to meeting immediate needs through emergency giving, proactive gifts can sustain disaster preparedness efforts in vulnerable communities and long-term recovery in post-crisis communities. For more information on disaster philanthropy, see additional resources, section 5 at the end of this toolkit. Once you have a list of organizations you want to research further, you can begin looking up their financial health and leadership through the GuideStar Charity Check or through Charity Navigator. A landscape analysis helps you learn about the best research, strategies, stakeholders, organizations, and funders in your focus area. If you have limited time but want to make sure you have a strong grasp of the issue, stakeholders, or other donor activity, and policies affecting your interest area, it is common to engage a consultant to create a custom landscape analysis for you. A landscape analysis can take a few weeks or few months and generally begins with desk research, internet searches, and literature reviews about a field. You or the consultant can supplement this by talking to principal stakeholders, including your intended beneficiaries, nonprofits, other funders, scholars, government officials, business leaders, and community members. At some point, you will stop searching for organizations and begin vetting those on your list. What that point is depends on how many plausible candidates you've identified, how much time and capacity you have to devote to the process, and your own preferences for comprehensiveness. You may wish to ensure that you don't miss any organizations in the field, or you may be satisfied after finding a handful of good candidates. In this section, we will discuss how to shortlist organizations and common approaches to addressing social problems, along with completing Activity N. This comparison chart describes 3 different approaches to addressing social and environmental problems. The approaches are not mutually exclusive. Donors and even organizations can use more than one approach. Use the charts to better understand the organizations you have identified so far. Then reflect on whether some approaches might be better suited than others to achieving your philanthropic goals in a focus area. Please take time to review the next 2 slides and complete Activity N. You will also find these charts in your toolkit before the activity. You can now vet the organizations you have shortlisted through the process of due diligence. Due diligence involves assessing an organization's legal status, overall health, strategic direction, and programmatic impact. Completing this process thoroughly will enable you to make confident funding decisions. You see listed here common vetting areas. The first being legal status under the IRC. A possible red flag in this area would be that the organization is not legally registered as a charitable organization, such as a 501c3 or 501c4. Another common vetting area is the organizational history. So if there's any negative press coverage, either in the past or currently, this could be a red flag. Another common vetting area is the strategy of the organization. So repeated changes in organization strategy and vision could be a red flag, or pursuit of multiple disparate strategies with limited resources could also be a red flag. Another common vetting area is the programs and services of the organization. So if those programs and services are spread across multiple disconnected issues or focus areas, or there's no signs of meaningful engagement with the target population. Another common vetting area is the governance and management of the organization. Some red flags here could be a series of major changes in leadership, board members or significant donors have conflicts of interest, or the board lacks expertise about nonprofit governance or lacks representation from the organization's intended beneficiaries. Another common vetting area are the financials of the organization. So for organizations with an annual budget over $1 million, if there's no audited financial statements, which are required by the IRS, this could be a red flag. Or if there's a growing deficit or unexplained financial volatility, or reliance on a single donor or small group of donors. Lastly, we have monitoring and evaluation. Some red flags here could be that there's no statements or reports on recent work and results, or reports show no indication that strategies have been adapted to address challenges and lessons from past work. You'll also find a list of these vetting areas with the red flags listed in your toolkit. Understanding how an organization learns from experience is an essential component of effective due diligence. We separate the learning process into two categories: monitoring and evaluation. Organizations have a wide range of measurement and evaluation reporting practices, from very basic to quite sophisticated. Sophisticated program measurement and evaluation is resource intensive and should not necessarily be expected from every organization. If identified as a primary need by the organization's leadership, it is common for donors to support improving and expanding an organization's measurement and evaluation strategy and implementation. Monitoring is the systematic, routine collection of information from an organization's programs and services, usually undertaken by the organization itself. Monitoring focuses on predetermined key indicators, qualitative or quantitative, that help organizations assess their performance, such as beneficiary engagement and feedback, program implementation, finances, and unintended harms. Evaluation helps organizations understand their program's effectiveness in achieving their intended outcomes. Evaluation can be carried out within an organization or by an external evaluator. Internal evaluation offers the benefit of deep contextual understanding, while external evaluation offers the benefit of outside expertise and credibility through a neutral third party. Referring to the three basic approaches described in Section 5.2 on achieving social outcomes, it is usually easiest to evaluate the outcomes of service delivery programs and can be difficult to evaluate the outcomes of advocacy, field building, and promoting knowledge, which often have long time horizons and depend on the contributions of many actors. In these cases, evaluations may be more qualitative than quantitative. If you are interested in learning to more deeply assess an organization's strategy and evaluation process, see additional resources Section 5 at the end of this toolkit. Please take time to complete Activity O, where you will complete due diligence on your shortlisted organizations, either on your own or you may do them with your advisor. Now that you have completed Section 5, turn to the Finding and Vetting Organization Summary on the next page. List the organizations you would like to fund and their key strengths. Tear out the completed table to include in your philanthropy planner. Welcome to Section 6 of the Philanthropy Workshop. Now that you have identified and selected organizations aligned with your focus areas, you are ready to make gifts, and perhaps to contribute your time and talent as well. This section guides you through the following steps. The first will be how to make gifts to organizations you selected so you can achieve your philanthropic goals. Next is how to track your philanthropy to help you learn about and improve your gifting. Finally, you'll learn how to consider expanding or refining your gifting so you can further support your selected issues and organizations. Once you have decided which organizations to fund and for what lengths of time, this section will help you build a funding plan for your focus areas. When making a gift of significant size, either in terms of the organization's budget or your own resources, consider whether and under what circumstances you wish to make a multi-year pledge. Longer-term pledges, which can be binding or not, help an organization engage in strategic planning for the future. While the typical gift is expendable and can be used to meet the organization's current needs, some organizations seek gifts to endowment funds, for example, for scholarships or professorships at college. Endowment funds are invested in perpetuity, and the organization uses the income to pay for current needs. It is important to develop a system for recording your gifts. This will allow you to step back and reflect on your overall philanthropic portfolio. Use whatever format is convenient for you, such as a notebook, spreadsheet, or database. For tax purposes, unless you are giving through a DAF, make sure that the organization provides you with a written receipt listing the date and amount or description of the contribution. The philanthropic process does not end once your gifts are made. Donors sometimes wish to trace the use of their every dollar. This reflects a misunderstanding of impact in philanthropy, which is reflected in the overall impact of the organizations you support. Of course, organizations should track and publish their activities, outputs, and outcomes. But tracking each individual gift, even if it were possible, would divert the organization's resources away from its core mission toward making each donor feel uniquely valuable. If your due diligence process, per Section 5, gave you confidence in an organization's effectiveness, every dollar you contribute will add that much more to its outcomes. On the hopefully rare occasions when you designate a gift for a particular project, you may be more interested in the results of that project than in the organization as a whole. But as long as you have included adequate overhead funding, you can be confident that your gift did not detract from the organization's overall effectiveness. Some ways to stay current on the organizations you support are to read the organization's annual reports, which typically include their budgets, accomplishments, and plans. You can also follow the organizations you support on social media platforms such as Facebook or LinkedIn. You can also read the news section on the websites of organizations you support and of similar organizations, or you can sign up for their e-newsletters. You can also attend events hosted by the organizations that you support. If you made a major gift, for example, a gift that constitutes a noticeable portion of the organization's budget, consider meeting with the organization to get updates directly from its senior staff. Please take time to complete Activity P. Beyond tracking your particular contributions, it is useful to stay current about your focus areas. Here are some ways to do that. You can sign up for e-newsletters from foundations, funders, and thought leaders in your focus areas. You can also research annual awards that nominate exceptional organizations and individuals working on your focus areas and learn more about their strategy and approach. You can also talk to knowledgeable peers who support your focus. Now that you have completed Section 6, turn to the Making and Tracking Gift summary on the next page. List the organizations you would like to fund and their key strengths. Tear out the completed table to include in your philanthropy planner. Congratulations on completing the Philanthropy Toolkit. Engaging in this process of intense reflection, focus, and planning is no simple feat. We hope this approach to philanthropy enriches your giving and paves the way for a lifelong practice of intentional philanthropy, one in which you build upon the lessons you learn along the way and continually explore how you and your loved ones can deepen your impact on the world. Keep in mind that change takes time. Patience is an essential component of the philanthropy journey. Thank you again for taking time to complete this activity, and I look forward to hearing from you.